Hello and welcome everyone. I thought I'll create a 30 days task sheet for VRC. So this 30 days task sheet can be repeated probably for the next 90 days even. The reason why I'm calling it a task sheet is that it is important that we boil down the stuff to tasks. We need to create tasks that we have to do. It is kind of easy to say that I'm going to prepare, let's say, 1 hour every day, 2 hour every day, for the CAT, whatever that number that you can put. But that does not really tell us what is that we have to do. But if we boil down the list of tasks that we want to do, then it will be much more fruitful. And this is probably what most of the toppers do. So the first thing, of course, is to understand what the test is. Now I'm talking about CAT. If you're taking other tests, which is NMAT or SNAP, IFTs, ZAT, then a few other things need to be added to this sheet. But let me, for the time being, talk about what is that we have to do with respect to the CAT. So when you look at the CAT, so from 2015 till 2021, the CAT has asked these 4 type of questions: reading comprehension, paragraph summary, paragraph jumble, and odd sentence in a paragraph. So these are the 4 types of questions the CAT asks. So one way is that we can probably look at these as one chunk and this is one chunk. That is by saying that a paragraph summary, after all, is a short reading comprehension passage asking you what the main idea is. So whatever the skill set that is required due to A's reading comprehension would be the same skill set that is required to A's paragraph summary. That's one. And then you can look at this paragraph jumble and odd sentence in a paragraph, kind of similar. Though in paragraph jumble, you're trying to figure out the sequencing of the sentence. In odd sentence in paragraph, you're trying to figure out which is that sentence which breaks the unity of that particular paragraph. That's one way to look at it. Or the other way to look at is to say that, okay, there is reading comprehension is handling multiple paragraphs, comprehending multiple paragraphs together. And all these is evaluating one single paragraph. Paragraph summary is evaluating what the main point of that particular paragraph is. Odd sentence in a paragraph is evaluating which is that sentence which breaks the unity of the paragraph. And paragraph jumble is evaluating how to create a coherent paragraph. So whichever way you want to chunk it, you can do that. But at the end of the day, all these together are actually testing your comprehension. Per se, this is not a test of your knowledge or prior knowledge, it's a test of comprehension, though a bit of knowledge about your vocabulary does play a role. Your grammar can play a role. And for example, if you have complex sentence, your knowledge of grammar in terms of identifying clauses, phrasal verb, adjectives, adverbs, adverbial phrases, this can help you understand a sentence slightly better. But it is not necessary that you should have complete understanding of grammar to be able to do well in reading comprehension section, or absolute amazing vocabulary to deal with. So working knowledge of grammar and working vocabulary is good enough, but those are the things that you might want to look at if you feel that that's an area, that's a task that is important for you, right? So for the time being, we look at this one saying that it is all about comprehension, right? Now, when you look at the targets, the second thing is that what is the kind of target that we would want to achieve? And in your mind, you would have thought about some sort of a target, some sort of an idea that you want. So there are 3 sections, of course: VRC, DLR, and QA. In your mind, depending on the college that you're targeting, depending on the overall percentile that you need, you would have some idea in terms of what the target should be, or what is that you're aiming at. Whatever is that you're aiming at, let's assuming that you're aiming at least about 95 percentile. Let's plan an action saying that looking at something like plan a task based on achieving, let's say, a couple of percentile more than that. That is to say that if you're looking at kind of a score of 34, you'll be happy with that score. Let's plan something like about 35, 38, 39 kind of a score. If you're planning to look at a score of about 45, then plan something that will, in your task, is saying that I would want to prepare for a score like about 50. So this is the percentile versus score distribution. So this is based on CAT 2021 story. By and large, it will not be very difficult. So, mind you, this is a 2-hour test, therefore a 40-minute section. So in a 40-minute section, if you can achieve that, so in a 1-hour section, you can achieve whatever is the corresponding 1-hour target score is. So at a bare minimum, let's say that we are looking at something like 11 questions that will get you net correct. That means 11 question net correct will get you 95 percentile, and 9 question net correct, 10 question net correct will get you 90th percentile. If you want to look at a 15 question net correct, that will give you a 99 percentile. Now, the first thing is, whatever be the kind of target that you set yourself. Let's say I want to get 9 question net correct, or let's say I have to get 11 question net correct, or I have to get 13 question net correct, or I have to get 15 question net correct, or whatever that target that you've set yourself, knowing that the total number of questions is 24. Look at it this way: that we have VA 8 questions, and reading comprehension, which is 4 paragraph, which is 16 questions. Correct. This was based on what was last year. Now, if any of these plan, let's take a 11 question plan. Let's assume that we are able to get something like a 4 questions from here, or maybe even 5 questions from here. Let's take 4 questions from here. Now, to get 11, therefore, what we need is 7 questions from these the 16 questions, 7 questions net correct. This is actually workable. One of the problem that happens when we look at our preparation for the CAT is sometimes we completely ignore this VA. We put our complete focus on reading comprehension. But VA in itself, 8 questions, that is a substantial chunk of questions. It's a significant number, right? Whatever is the target, let's assume that I would want to look at something like a 15 question net correct, which means I need to get about 5 questions from VA, or maybe 6 questions from VA. Then from the rest, which is from the reading comprehension, I need to get about 10 to 11 questions net correct. So that means that I have to be really good in reading comprehension to achieve that kind of a target, or really good in every area. So it's about 90th percentile is actually not very difficult, just about 9 questions net correct. Yet we flounder, we have issues with respect to achieving that particular target. Okay, once you've identified this, let's create a simple action plan. So to create a simple action plan, it is important that we make certain assumptions, right? So we have to list down some assumptions or presupposition that we have. Okay. Now the first assumption that we'll have to look at is reading speed is not important. And I'm putting this assumption when it comes to speed is not important. What is of course important is comprehension is important. My ability to comprehend stuff is what is important. Now, let me explain why I'm saying this. Okay, so and this assumption is an important assumption to make before we create any sort of a task. And let me tell you why I'm actually saying that reading speed is not important. When you look at the reading comprehension passages and the VA section of the CAT, we've got 4 passages, right? I'm looking at the last one. And we have got 3 questions of paragraph jumble, 3 questions of paragraph summary, and 2 questions of odd sentence in a paragraph. This was what happened last year. Now, each of these reading comprehension passage has got roughly about 500 words, right? Now, when you look at, and they're followed by 4 questions. When you look at this 500 words, 500 words is not huge, right? I mean, you look at your normal sort of reading speed. Normally, anything that you read, I'm guessing that the newspaper, other thing, you can read probably about, or novel, or any book that you read, you can probably read about 250 words per minute. That's a usual normal pace of anyone who's got a reasonable competence in English. And I am assuming that given the fact that we have got the education that we have got so far, we have reasonable comprehension in English. Even though, let's say that I've gone through vernacular medium, I'm sure that we have read enough passages on stuff on English. Maybe during our graduation we had to read books. We have a reasonable speed of about 250 words per minute. Even if let's say that I'm looking at 150 words per minute, because let's push that sort of speed a little low. Even if let's say I'm looking at something like 150 words per minute, I can still read this passage in what, about 3.5 minutes. So the reading of each of this passage should take about 3 to 3.5 minutes, or maybe for some of you could take about 4 minutes. We'll get to that, but we should be able to deal with 3.5 minutes. If, for instance, if of course the passage that I'm reading is familiar to me, the topic that I'm reading is comfortable to me, the words that I use is something that I can probably grasp and understand, or at least majority of them. The dense factor of the passage is manageable. So whatever it is, about 3.5 minutes, which means to solve each of these 4 questions, question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4, we can do that in about 4 minutes, right? That is if you don't get stuck in questions. I may not even solve some of these questions. I can let's say just solve these couple of questions, maybe one more question and leave out one question because it is a little confusing. If I'm sensible, I can actually look at each of these passages in about 7 minutes. It is actually possible. It's possible. Not impossible, but possible. I'm sure that we'll be able to do that in about 9 minutes. 7 minutes would mean that this I'll be able to do 4 passages in 28 minutes. If I take about 9 minutes, I'll be able to solve 3 passages in about 27 minutes. And we will eventually be in one of these category, which means I have remaining about 12 minutes, assuming that is 40 minutes for this 8 VA question. And that means that I have 1.5 minutes per VA questions, right? So it is a test that you don't really have to worry too much about speed, because if I worry about reading speed, then I do activities to improve my speed. There are certain things that I could do to be a better reader, focusing on comprehension. So when you look at focusing more in terms of comprehension than in terms of reading, then you're interested in other aspect. The aspect is okay. So let when I'm reading something, let me chunk sentences, a group of sentences together, understand this one. When I'm reading something, let me understand the function of each of the sentences and the knowledge that what is the role of this particular sentence. Is it is a sentence which is talking about a point claim that author is making. It is a sentence which is explaining something. It is a sentence which is giving an example, thereby understanding what is a main point of that particular paragraph. Once I understand the main point of the particular paragraph, can I connect those points together of this 4 paragraph? Can I connect those points together and understand what is known as a structure, a logical structure? Is it a problem solution? Is it an old view, new view structure? And all that kind of is important. Of course, another part is important is that in the CAT you've got passages from humanities. CAT gives passages on natural sciences. CAT also gives passages on social sciences. And I should also be in a situation where I can actually be comfortable with reading these kind of passages. So the first assumption is that comprehension is important, and my reading speed, I'll not be bothered about it. It is an automatic process. There is something not specifically I want to do. I want to ensure that if I read it once, I should be able to comprehend what I'm reading. That is our first assumption that we're going to make. The second assumption that we're going to make is that I will be a great test taker. By that I mean is that in the actual test, when I'm taking the test, I will not be wasting time. So this is important when I'm looking at from a prep point of view. So I will be able to implement on a test scenario. Okay, so in a test, so you've got this 40 minutes, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth, 39, 40 minutes. I'm talking about a section. Every single minute that I'm spending has to be with this perspective of improving marks or increasing marks. That is my objective, right? Whatever activity that I'm doing, that activity should aid in improving my marks. If that activity is not aiding me to improve my marks, then that activity is complete waste of time. So in fact, if I read faster than my pace of comprehension, I'm not going to understand the passage. That activity is not going to aid me improving the marks. When I'm getting confused between options, if I still stick on to that particular options and try to evaluate it, whatever you're doing at that point in time is not really aiding you to improve the mark. What would be better at that point would be to just move on to the next question, because that moving on to the next question would probably be aiding you to improve your marks rather than getting stuck in something that you're absolutely confused. So I'm going to make an assumption. We'll have to make an assumption that we will become a great test taker, and it's actually possible to be the great test takers. That's broadly the two simple assumptions that we want to make. And let's create some sort of a task that is going to help in this one. So let's divide it into 4 weeks: week 1, week 2, week 3, and week 4. Let's create some tasks. So the first step, of course, is that I need to understand what is the problem that I'm solving. So imagine, let's say, look at this particular box here. Okay, let's focus on this box that I just drew. Can you find the answer to this question? Like, what question? There is no question. Precisely the point. If I don't know the problem, what am I solving? The big issue that I've seen with so many prep or that we do is that we simply start without even knowing what is the problem that we are trying to solve. So the starting point of everything, which I'm sure that you would have already done, the starting point is understanding the problem. So let's create what is known as problem definition. Okay, let's define problems. Now, how do I define problems? And we'll have to define problem every week. The best way to define problem and the tool that is going to help you with respect to defining that problem would be a mock test. What a mock test helps you is understanding sort of where you are, right? But just by taking the mock test and getting the score does not actually mean that I've understood the problem because I've taken that particular mock test in a test scenario. So what happens in the mock test is that I would have got some questions correct, I would have got some questions wrong, and I would have left some questions. But I did that in the time pressure. I will have to redo all the questions once again. Okay, that is an exercise that I'll have to do. Redo all the questions without looking at the solutions, without looking at what the right answer is. I just want to redo the question. I'll understand a few things. Maybe some of these questions that I got is, let's say, fluke. So I actually, it was just a fluke in the examination that I got. But some of the questions are actually right. Now, in this case, some of these questions that are still wrong. Therefore, that is a bad decision that I made. Even after solving it again, I still can't figure out the right answer. So, which means, why did I even? It's like saying, "सोचा था औकात है, नहीं औकात नहीं था." But still, we tried and solve this. Now, some of these questions turn out to be right, which means that you would have probably done a silly mistake. There are some questions that you kind of cannot solve even now, which means that's a good decision, at least a great decision. Well left. You did not solve. You could not have got it anyways. But some of these questions you would have got correct, which will be missed opportunity. Now, this three put together, this score is a score. Let me just call it the Aukat score, which means your true potential score. And then define the problem based on that, right? You have to define the problem based on that, which means I've got, let's say, a test score and I have a target score. Now I've also figured out my Aukat score. So what does this gap mean? This gap is, okay, for me to achieve this target score, even if I have time, I still not going to reach my target score, whatever the target score is. So this is where my competence I need to improve. So this is the competence gap that I have. But look at this gap here. I could have actually got this score, this Aukat score, but in the test I did something. My behavior was wrong. This would be my execution gap, right? So execution gap is changing the behavior in the test. This gap here can be bridged by changing the behavior. What is a time wasting behavior that you did? And these are the competence gap that you need to fill. So you have to now figure out what is that competence gap so that you get an understanding of the problem that you're trying to solve. And this is something that you do in every week. So one of the tasks that you have in every test is a mock test. But I need to define what is that we are trying to take from the mock test is to define our problem. It is possible that we continue to have problems, right? So for example, there could be not many cases what will happen with respect to this mock test. So if you're taking the mock test, for example, let's say there is a problem one. So one possibility is that this problem is completely resolved, right? Other possibility is that the problem one still continues. Okay. Third possibility is that, okay, problem one got resolved, but I identified a new problem in the next one. And then there'll be not many complications here, but treat this as opportunities for you can learn. So one task is that I will have to look at this mock test regularly. So that is my one task. So put that as a task. This will be for all the sections put together. Plus, please do understand every single mock test is also giving you additional bit of practice. Every single mock test gives you 4 RC passages. Every single mock test gives you 8 VA questions. So treat that as part of your preparation tool. Don't just take the mock test and leave it. It is still a part of your preparation tool, right? The next task is to ensure. So the other task, this is my task number one. Okay, T1. The task number two on a weekly basis is depending upon what the problem is. And I'm sure that there would be issues with respect to reading some kind of passage, issues with respect to issues with respect to understanding, let's say a passage is on natural sciences for some of you, or dense passages. So this second task is to have reading, uh, reading on a daily basis. This reading you're trying to do as much diverse as an area as possible. There are few stuff that I could recommend. One is you have got Aeon essays. It's just, and the advantage when I say is written by multiple authors. It is called diverse topics. It is free of cost. It also has something known as A1 ideas. You can Google that as well. A1 essays has got close to about 3,000, 3,500 words passages, 3,000 to 3,500, sometimes even 4,000. A1 ideas slightly shorter, 1,000, 1,500. I will also recommend this thing called JSTOR Daily. Now, JSTOR is journal storage. That has got only only our journals, but JST has had a lot of my articles. It's about randomly reading it. But what is the task here? The task is not just reading. I will also add one more task here, is that after reading everything, write down a summary, 4-sentence summary of what you just read. Okay. Yeah, and that is one. Number two is that list down all the words, new words that you came across. Okay, take it down and ensure that you keep looking at these words again and again. So there are different ways to sort of you have to identify whether vocabulary is a problem that you need to address. If the vocabulary is a problem that you need to address, then you'll have to figure out ways. That has to be a task that you have to add yourself. Right? You can refer to books. You can probably have picking up new words every single day. But I've always found that one of the better way to look at vocabulary is by reading a lot. So this task is important. That is our second task. Okay. So what this will help you is that in about, let's assume that I'm reading an article per day. So I'm reading about 30 articles in these 30 days, right? So I'm able to read about 30 articles. Now, for these 30 articles, I'm assuming will be from diverse topic. Let's say I would have ended up reading about 10 from humanities, 10 from social science, 10 from natural sciences. Within that, we'll have lot many areas. One other task that I would want you to do is please note that, for example, if you look at humanities, right, as a subject, most of the passages that you find in the CAT are taken from passages, not sort of Indian authors, is usually from journals outside. We've got like essays, Smithsonian Magazine, New York Times, or books that is written by people. But most of the cases you see that it is from a Western perspective, most of them. And for example, one of the key period of time of humanities, in fact, humanities as a concept itself, I believe, born during the Renaissance period, right, which happened in Italy. So any article that you read in humanities, any concept that you came across, let's say Enlightenment rationalism, let's say that's a concept that came. Please ensure that if it is something that you're looking and reading for the first time, please do ensure that one of the other tasks that you have, this another subtask that you have, is read up something about it, or maybe watch a YouTube video on that particular concept, because you will see that this concept keep happening, covering lot many passages. You would have seen this in the CAT, right? For example, freedom as an idea that gets repeated, ethics as an idea. Even, for example, in natural sciences, not in terms of sort of concepts, so not so much in natural sciences, but natural science you can see lot many structure, which is usual. Natural science passage has a structure: an old view, a new study, a new view. But I would strongly encourage this to do with social science passages. Let's say a word came ethnography. Now, you don't know what ethnography is, but just quickly go. You can do it while reading, or you can do it after reading. This has to be a task. The more you develop this little bit of knowledge base, your ability to comprehend the passage becomes that much better. So with respect to reading a task, I would want you to do three things. Number one, create summary. Number two, take down many words and keep looking at the words again and again. Have a book, or maybe Excel sheet, whatever you want, whatever comfortable to you. Write down this word. Third is if you have concepts, not just. I'm talking about a word like, let's say, palpable. That's a word. That's not a concept. That's a word. So if you don't know the meaning of the word, go check what the meaning of the word. But let's say concept, humanism, ethnography, anthropology, or enlightenment rationalism, existentialism, or so you come across words like these, uh, and it looks like a conceptual word which is used in a particular context and a particular subject. Do ensure that you're reading something, maybe a quick Wikipedia reading, or maybe even going to YouTube and saying existentialism for dummies, and spot a problem in 2x speed, watch one video. That should be good enough for you to do this. So do this task when it comes to task number 3. And this so mock test is absolutely has to be done. This is the second task. Now there might be some of you who have been, so in task number 2, there might be some of you who already have amazing reading habit, right? Already reading, let's say, 1 book, 2 books per week. Therefore, you can just continue doing that, unless of course you find out a certain sort of areas that you're uncomfortable with. So make the task that is your own, right? Figuring out what your problem is, what your situation is, tweak this task in terms of what is that you want to achieve through here. I'm talking about a general. This task is generally about those who sort of having little trouble with VRC. Let's talk about the third task, which is getting into the stuff, as hardcore stuff, prep stuff. Let's talk about a task which is reading comprehension. I think the reading comprehension is a task that you will want to do every single week. Now you've got access to the books, or you're probably joined a course, right? And you have access to two things. Either you've got some of you may also have access to some mentor who is teaching you how to read a passage or how to eliminate answer choices. It could be a classroom, you're a part of a classroom or a part of a course, or maybe that you just watch somebody on the YouTube and learn from it, whatever it is. So one of the key things that you'll have to keep in mind is that there could be multiple ways of dealing with reading comprehension, though there'll be a lot of commonality, but each faculty members or each mentor will have a style, each person will have a style of doing. You'll have to be very careful to figure out what works for you. So this is what I would strongly recommend. A lot of people talk about quantity. I think you should do 10 RCs, you should do 2 RCs every day. That is not a task. Doing what is my objective out of it? Objective out of it is that, let's assume that on an average, let's say that on a weekly basis, I'm doing 10 RCs. I'm just putting a number here, right? 10 RCs every week, which means I've got net, I'm going to do 40 RC. And plus this mock test, another 4 RC, that is 4 4 16 RC, 54 RCs is probably what I'm probably going to do in the week, right? This may be even you're taking this 10 RC as a section test. Okay, you took a section test. I've got 4 RC, so 2 section tests, whatever you're doing, right? Let's say I've got this. But the task that we have within this is that, am I improving my score? Am I learning things? The issue that I have seen with many is that we just keep on solving and solving and solving. We get a score high, then but are we actually learning it? The process has to be very similar to the process that I just described for our mock test. Is starting first step. I do it without any time limit. Okay. Second step, I may check my answers. Okay, but after checking my answers, whether it is right or wrong, how many I got correct, how many I got wrong. Next thing, I'm going to redo the whole thing without looking at solution. And this process is absolutely crucial. An explanation will only tell you what the answer is. It never tells you what your problem is. And then you check the explanation. Okay. And then you come back and teach yourself. This teaching yourself means you have to be a teacher to yourself. Now, imagine, like, literally I'm saying this, is that you have to tell yourself, okay, let's say I am taking the test. So Gejo, let me explain to you what this passage is. Let's do a structure of paragraph number 1. Let's slot it. These are the word. This is idea of paragraph number 1. Okay, so this is the broad understanding of this particular passage. Great. Now let's look at the question number 1. This is the right answer because of the reason. Let me identify why answer choice A, C, and D are wrong. Why B is right? A is wrong because the rotten wood that is there. B is wrong because it is very broad. And this learning, this time that you're spending in learning is going to be crucial. And I don't even mind that in some cases, some people want to note down certain RC passage and note down certain type of question, right? And you want to kind of go back and solve it, right? You might in the middle. So you in this learning phase, this is a part of the learning phase, right? This is where the learning happens. When you do this exercise, when the learning happens, you would want to check out from a mentor in terms of the approaches that you can use. Okay, couple of approaches done, then you're doing it. I can't be sitting and watching approaches after approaches after approaches without me actually solving it. We actually any sort of videos or any sort of lesson that you watch, right? Let's assume that you're a classroom student, you're having class. After the class, I'm going back and redoing the whole thing once again. I want to improve my score with the bare minimum effort. If I can't improve my score after solving for improve my skills, let me not score, because score is also has to do with behavior that you do in the test. Okay, that's the second story. But my at least my OCAT score. Okay, let me put it that way. My OCAT score. If I can improve my OCAT score, because behavior test behavior is something that we have to. That is one aspect of. If we can improve my OCAT score, that is good, right? And if you can't improve my OCAT score after doing 40 passages, then what is the point? What is the guarantee that the next 40 passages is going to help you? So this is the task. Task number 4. Here you could probably look at with this RC, you can already connect paragraph summary along with it, because in lot many cases those two are same. But I am now going to take a task which is equal to paragraph jumble and odd sentence in a paragraph. Let's handle this. Okay, this is where when you start looking at this paragraph jumble and odd sentence, and when you start asking mentors, you'll have wild sort of ideas floating out there, even in your classroom, even on YouTube. Even if you look at this is where you keep hunting for, okay, what is working. Okay, so it is absolutely essential and important that you look at your own processes. You create your own. So my suggestion may be, okay, there are 2-3 ways you can do it. But if there is a week, you can, let's say 1 week dedicated to one activity, either a paragraph jumble or odd sentence, up to you. You can even say that the first couple of weeks I will do, or you can say XY as a process, which is one day I'll do paragraph jumble, other week I'll do odd sentence, other week I'll do paragraph jumble. Or you can say first 2 weeks I'll going to dedicate to X, and next 2 weeks I'll dedicate to Y, which means I'll club together and handle paragraph jumble. And again, all you need to do is about 10-20 questions each, with the same process. Especially in paragraph jumble, this process, the task is very important. After reading every single paragraph jumble question, odd sentence question, you are asking yourself, okay, sit with it, put your teaching cap. But everybody has this. You have the skills, right? You don't technically. We don't need me. Right? Everybody has the skill. You can figure stuff out. It's not difficult. So put on thinking cap and solve this. Okay. So these are the simple tasks. I'm going to add task 5, which can be integrated into any of these things. Okay, because we are of course solving passages, right? We are all of course solving questions. You don't have to treat it separately. These sources can be anything. That source is definitely your CAT 2017 to 2021 questions. Use that. The reason why I'm asking you to use that is actual CAT questions. Now, especially for paragraph jumble, odd sentence, I will in fact strongly recommend, before you start in the initial phases, right, or the initial kind of week, I think you devote using these CAT questions. So let's take, for example, paragraph jumble. 2017 has got 5 sentences in paragraph jumble. Let's remove that. 2018 we have got 2 slots, which means each slot had 4 questions, 8 questions. 2019 2 slots at 8 questions, that we have 16. 2020 3 slots, that is 9 questions. 2021 we have 9 questions. 18 plus 16. Now we have got 34. Yeah, right. No, my math is okay. We're going to just actually use this question. So you're going to treat these questions. You can treat this question as a section test. You can treat this question as individual test, or you could probably say that in this first week, what I'm going to do is, or you can, or another way you can look at the task. Okay, this week number one, I'm going to look at CAT 2022 slots. Within that, I'll pick up the RCs, I'll pick up the paragraph jumble. So, but anyways, use the point that I'm saying is use this CAT 2020 question as part of your story, part of your prep process. This is first 30 days. You can come back and you have next 30 days also. No, you can, it's up to you. So this is your game. No, but I'm just saying that ensure that your past, this CAT becomes a part of your story. Your mock becomes part of your story. These are absolutely important stuff that you want to look at. Your mock being a story, because your mock test also becomes a part of your task of uh, so it's also questions that you're actually solving, right? This also become a part of your task 3 and task 4 in terms of improving a score. Your CAT set test CAT will become a part of your task 3 and task 4 as well. Okay, so there is not, when you actually look at it, there is not much you need to do. This looks like a complete khichdi. Okay, let's list down simple tasks. So our task 1 is mocks, look at problems that we have to solve. Task 2 is reading, okay, to improve comprehension. Task 3 and task 4 is, task 3 is about reading comprehension. I will not use about practice, I'm using about learning, RC learning and VA learning. In RC learning and VA learning, okay, what we have said is you can also use, apart from the material that you're using, also use previous CAT papers or CAT questions. Okay. Other thing what we talk about is in terms of the specificity of the task that we have to solve. The specific thing that we have to solve with task number 1 is take the test, redo the test, or redo the test, and then learn. Again, here you also take one thing, redo, and then learn. This redo as a process is very important. Okay, the redoing the whole thing. Improving comprehension. What is said? Write summary, pick up words, and also understand concepts. Okay, so this one, taking task 1 is anyways you're doing, because for other section this task 1 has got intersection with respect to all the other 3 sections. No, VARC, DALR and QA. Your mock test is the intersection, because you're doing one, this kind of takes care of all the other area. Reading as an activity is going to improve comprehension, but reading as an activity, I'm assuming will have a larger impact with respect to VA, but also will have some impact with respect to DLR, because DLR is also content heavy, right? You have to read and comprehend, so that's going to help you there. And this, of course, is a pure activity of your VRC activity. But the key thing is to kind of read this and learn. Okay. Yeah. So that to me is a plan. I hope that this made sense. If you have any questions, please put that in the comment box. I will answer those, and or maybe make a video based on whatever comment that I hear or see. Thank you.